Okay, so here we are in February 2024. Where is the market going? Now I'm in Central Texas, so I will speak both nationally and Central Texas. So we had a crazy market for a little while. The Feds kept the rates low, way too low in my opinion, for whatever reason. I don't understand their logic on that. But the one thing that I think everybody's aware of now that the Fed rate significantly impacts the real estate market. Now, the Fed's messing with the rate. They're not really thinking about the real estate market. They're thinking about the economy. They're thinking about inflation. So when they cranked up the rates all the way to 8%, it seemed like we were going 100 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden, boom, somebody slammed on the brakes. Right now, you're looking at about 7% rate for a 30-year mortgage if you're owner occupied. If you're investment, you are looking at about 8%. So a lot of folks have mortgages that are way below that 7% mark. They're at 3% on a 30-year mortgage. And those folks really are looking around asking themselves, why would I buy a house now? Yeah, there's better prices, but I got to leave my 3% mortgage. That group represents about 50% of the home purchases every year. So that group is now thinking twice about buying a house. Um, First time home buyers in 2023 made up about 24-25% of the home purchasers. And I think in 2024, we're going to see about the same percentage, if not maybe an increase. So, one of the questions is what can we expect about the rates for 2024? So, Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, he has stated that it's possible that they'll lower rates, but don't count on it. What they're tracking is inflation, and they're looking at a 2% inflation rate over time. So they're not looking at what inflation is today or last month or anything like that. They're looking at it over time, and I believe the period they're looking at is about a 40-year period. So they're looking at the average for that. So if they see that the inflation rate is staying below 2%, at that point they will entertain lowering the rates. If they're seeing it's going above that, at that point they'll talk about increasing the Fed rate. The other thing they do is by them talking about lowering and increasing the rate, that in of itself affects the mortgage market, ironically enough. So sometimes them not even doing anything, just talking about it makes the mortgages go up and down. So I don't believe anybody's predicting that the Fed will raise the Fed rate at all this year, and I agree with that. There's talk that they might lower it. If they do, I don't expect that it's going to create a crazy demand for mortgages and home purchases, because again, the rates that some folks have now are crazy low rates. But it's definitely going to help out, especially first-time home buyers. So I feel that in 2024 we're going to have a bearish market, not a bullish market. So in the Central Texas market, I personally predict a 3% increase in property values roughly across the board. With that said, this market right now has a lot of opportunities for the home buyer. So if you can get on the buying side, swallow the pill, that big old pill with that 7% mortgage rate, and purchase, you can actually capitalize on the opportunities that are out there. It doesn't mean that when you see a house for $500,000, you're gonna be able to buy it for 400,000, but it does mean that every seller will look at every offer now, not the crazy market we were at before. That if you didn't offer 100,000 above asking price, with an appraisal waiver, with no option period, with no period for you to do an inspection, that they wouldn't even look at your offer. Now they'll look at everything. So my recommendation to you is if you can get on the buying side, do it. Look at it. You now have time as a buyer. You can look at a property. There's a good chance it'll still be there when you come back to it a week later. You can have it inspected. You can really make sure that you're making a good purchase instead of rushing into something. Over time, when you look back on that decision, you'll probably be glad you did that. I expect that 2024 and 2025 are both going to be bear markets, and they're both going to be markets of opportunity. It doesn't mean that there's blood on the streets, which I think a lot of people were expecting, but I think the opportunities are there. So, I said it's February. We'll look in December and see if I was right. Hope you found that helpful. Laters.